Players certainly have taken the road to the NBA that Drazen Petrovic took. Coming to the States from Yugoslavia, he served a lot of time on the Portland bench before finding a home with the Nets.
The list charting the most accurate three-point shooters in NBA history is a little skewed. Seth Curry is above his brother Steph, Steve Kerr sits at the top, and role players Hubert Davis and Luke Kennard sit at 2 and 3 respectively. Yet despite the inaccuracy of this statistic, it's essential to understand the story of the greatest shooter who never was. As number 4 on this list, with a career three-point percentage of 43.74, remains the NBA's biggest what if. As someone who could have revolutionized the three-point shot and changed the game 20 years before Steph ever could, this anomaly is Croatian superstar Drazen Petrovic.
That's a rebound. Petrov, 4-on-3, got it! Petrovic three-pointer, look out! Got it with a foul! He will go for a 4-point play.
I consider myself the best shooter ever, but there's one guy that tops me.
Croatia need a score to get into Petro. Petro for three. Yes, for three! Rip City, he called for the ball and drilled that man.
A lot of guys can't do that shot in NBA because they settle for a little spot-up shot.
And he got underneath my skin. And the reason why he got underneath my skin is because a lot of times I couldn't understand what he was saying. And it was the late, great Drazen Petrovic.
In 1979, the NBA would implement the three-point line. 23 feet, 9 inches from the center of the basket, and 22 feet from the corners. Chris Ford of the Boston Celtics would sink the first ever ball from downtown, but not too much would change. The fact was, professional basketball players weren't accustomed to shooting from 25 feet out, and most coaches insisted on taking the easy two, with the 7-foot giants who littered all over the league. In fact, over the first 9 seasons of play, the league attempted just over 52,000 three-point shots, significantly less than the number attempted in the 2023 season alone. In those years, the average three-point percentage sat somewhere between 23 and 30%, far worse than the 36% in 2023. So what changed? Well, aside from players simply becoming better shooters, basketball, like other American sports, was slowly being governed by analytics. And one analytic in particular changed the way coaches began looking at basketball. 33% from 3 is the same as shooting 50% from 2. If we reverse some of our data, we'll find that in those same 9 seasons, NBA teams had the best field goal efficiency from 2, getting as close to averaging 50% as the league has ever seen. However, in 1989, the league would finally average over 33% in three-point shots. And from that point forward, statistically, it was the most efficient way to score points. Now, despite these statistical probabilities, it would take over 2 decades for Steph Curry and the Warriors to revolutionize the three-point shot and turn it into the weapon that it is today. But what if there's a player with a natural gift like Steph, who could have revolutionized the league decades earlier? Coincidentally, 1989 would also be the year European star Drazen Petrovic would enter the league and earn a name for himself as a quick-release shot maker, specifically from downtown.
For three, yes! Petrovic! He goes back up the floor with that fist in the air!
Live from the Meadowlands Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey, Sports Channel presents New Jersey Nets basketball.
Petrovic was a native of Croatia, known as Yugoslavia in the time that he grew up. And ironically, he was born with a defect in his hips, which slowed the progression of growth in his legs, the most integral muscles for any three-point specialist. This adversity wouldn't stop Drazen, who from a young age became obsessed with shooting at basketball, following in the footsteps of his older brother, who would go on to become one of Yugoslavia's top shooting guards. As the tale goes, he would spend countless hours in the dead of night, shooting from the exact same spot, mastering his form, and dominating his neighborhood pickup games. At only 15, Petrovic would make the cut for Sabenka, a professional Yugoslavian team who he would lead to 2 straight finals appearances in 82 and 83, where our first sign of controversy would appear. In the Yugoslav First Basketball League, playoffs were decided in a best-of-3 format, and the 83 finals consisted of Petrovic's number 1 ranked team Sabenka facing the 3rd ranked team Bosna. And after trading the first 2 games, it all came down to the rubber match, which proved competitive all the way to the buzzer. And with just seconds remaining and Sabenka down by 1, the ball was in Drazen's hands, who was ready for his first chance at glory. Except when he got up to take that shot, Petrovic was awarded 2 free throws and sank them both with ease, securing his first ever championship at 19 years of age. Or he would have, if the president of the league hadn't overturned the foul call the following morning. The game was deemed to be void, and a 4th match would be scheduled at a neutral site to decide the champion, which Sabenka would boycott and protest, handing over a victory by default to their celebrating opponents. After a mandatory year of service in the military, Petrovic would return to the Yugoslav League with his brother and become the best backcourt duo in all of Europe, dominating first the Yugoslav League and eventually the Euroleague, averaging over 30 points per game against some of the top competition. In the finals of that Euroleague against Spain, he put up 36 points and claimed the title of highest scorer in the finals. However, his greatest achievement was still yet to come. Drazen Petrovic's 1985-1986 season playing for Cibona may be one of the great single-season statistical performances in sports history. Averaging an astounding 41 points per game, Petrovic was on a completely different level than anyone else, despite being just 21 years of age. And we could have seen this coming had we paid attention to a specific early regular season game, in which Drazen scored 112 points on 66% shooting, smashing the previous record for most points in a game, which sat at 74. It's a little less impressive when you consider the opposing team's manager butchered player registrations before the game, meaning Petrovic was basically playing against a B team. Cibona maintained its Euroleague dominance that season and returned to the Cup final, set to face a Soviet Union team featuring a monster as unstoppable as Petrovic. Arvydas Sabonis is widely regarded as one of the greatest European basketball players of all time. His career accomplishments contain a laundry list of awards and accolades, including a stint in the NBA with the Portland Trail Blazers, albeit while he was well past his prime. Many talking heads have speculated that had Sabonis played in the NBA before the age of 30, he may have been considered one of the great passing big men of all time. But that's all speculation because, in his prime, Sabonis was here, playing for Zalgiris in the European Cup final, challenging the defending champions and Drazen Petrovic. The game was a tight contest, with Sabonis dominating the floor. Late in the game, he had accumulated 27 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 blocks, looking absolutely unstoppable, until a certain event forced him out of the contest. With Sabonis out of the way, Petrovic and Cibona ran away with the match, defeating Zalgiris with a final score of 94-82. Drazen scored a respectable 22 points with 5 assists and took home the MVP award, elated at his victory. Drazen would continue his Yugoslavian and Euroleague dominance for 2 more years before it was clear he needed a challenge that Cibona just could not offer. At just 23, he was entering his prime as somebody too good for his home league. Despite being drafted back in 1986 by the Portland Trail Blazers, Yugoslavian law prohibited players from moving professionally until the age of 28, so theoretically, Petrovic was stuck. Until that is, a certain agent from Spain made a few calls, and somehow got him through to play for Real Madrid. It's a little unclear how Drazen was able to leave Yugoslavia, but from what we understand, it involved a lot of bribery, corruption, but most importantly, money. And after all that effort, Petrovic would only play a single season in Spain, leading the league averaging 28 points per game, which made it clear once again that he was a man in a league of boys. Madrid would ultimately lose Game 5 of the Spanish League Finals, but not before Petrovic set the record for most points in a finals game with 42, and most threes made with 8. But individual accolades didn't matter much to Drazen, who cared only for winning.
Yes, I'm happy, but we lose the game, and no, I'm not happy because we lose the game, and I am so tired because I played Olympic Games, and maybe for 10 or 15 days I've been okay.
After that single season in Spain, Portland would buy out his remaining Spanish contract, and Petrovic would finally move on to the NBA, facing competition that was more on par with his skill level. This was big news for European basketball, as Drazen was one of the first Euro star point guards with any expectations in the NBA. At that moment in time, most European players were viewed a level below American stars, called too soft for the NBA. Ironically enough, Petrovic was anything but soft. According to multiple anecdotes from former coaches and teammates, Petrovic's training was mentally insane. According to Croatian player Drazen Petrovic, Drazen was the most patient and hardworking player. He spent the most hours in the gym. I've never seen a player like that before or since. During Yugoslavia's 1989 Eurobasket championship run, Petrovic would reportedly drag an assistant coach to the gym every day at 6 a.m., do a 2-hour workout, and then return to eat breakfast with his teammates who were just waking up. One summer in America, Drazen had to be convinced to train less, who supposedly would go on endless runs or bikes. It became detrimental. "You're not a marathon runner, you're not in the Tour de France," quoted Rich Delatry, a strength coach with the Brooklyn Nets. Before leaving to play for Portland, Petrovic was confident that his game would translate well to the NBA, that he would continue to dominate as he did in Yugoslavia and in Spain. The only way he saw himself struggling would be due to a lack of playtime. Well, that's exactly what happened. For his entire life, Drazen Petrovic was the guy, a ball handler who created open shots for both himself and his teammates. But the Blazers were concerned he didn't have the quickness to be a proper point guard, so they brought him on to be an outside three-point shooter, basically a glorified catch-and-shoot guy. To make matters worse, the Blazers already had a full rotation of guards, featuring future Hall of Famer Clyde Drexler, alongside Terry Porter and Danny Young. So in a matter of months, Drazen went from being the top player in Europe to a deep bench player, who barely averaged 12 minutes a game. You can imagine how this might frustrate a player like Petrovic, who put in all this time just to be shunned by his own coach. And while he would struggle with Portland, you would occasionally see his flashes of brilliance, as though his true skill level was coming out to the world.
Robinson, left of the circle, gonna drive, leaves it for Petro, turn, stop, shoots, hit! And to Danny Young. Danny on the drive over the timeline, plays it in the score to get it to Petro, Petro for three! Yes! For three! Rip! City, he calls for the ball! They look right, Petrovic gets a turn, shoots, he hits! Petrovic, he goes down the floor with this, they get two out of it anyway. Down the floor, Petrovic from Danny Young, took it away from Orlando, back to Drazen for three, yes! Petrovic!
A great win tonight, and one of the reasons why our guest tonight, Drazen Petrovic, right here. You had 14 points in 7 minutes. You got to show your emotions a little more.
No, I've just been so excited because we need this win, and in the beginning of the season I didn't have a real chance to play, but now Rick has more confidence on my game, and I really like to play hard in defense and in offense.
And you're doing it.
The '89 Portland Trailblazers were one of the league's top teams that season, reaching a franchise record 59 wins, finishing second in the Pacific Division. In the playoffs, Petrovic would average the least amount of minutes on the team, but still came alive in some crucial situations. In round 1 against the Mavericks, Petrovic came alive in the fourth quarter, scoring 14 points in just 12 minutes of playtime on 50% shooting. He was on fire and would be rewarded with more playing time during the rest of the playoffs. He averaged double-digit points in a tough Game 7 series against the Spurs, becoming a regular scorer off the bench. But it would be in the crucial 6th game of the Western Conference Final that Drazen truly came alive.
Hard to do for a guard this way. Petrovic, the smooth shooter, comes back. Clear out off the dribble. Petrovic with a drive and a good move. Petrovic for three, hits one.
Late in the fourth quarter, the sharpshooter was thrust into the game and delivered shot after shot after shot, with an opportunity to clinch a spot in the NBA Finals. But after clinching a wide-open layup, he would take an unquestionably stupid technical foul.
And a technical foul has been called. After it came down, boom, there goes the elbow. And, the referees are not going to allow that to happen.
Portland would hold on to play the Pistons in the 1990 Finals, but Petrovic would be taken out of the game and put on significantly reduced minutes from that point on, not even touching the court in that Game 5 loss that clinched the title for Detroit. To make matters worse, Portland would trade for hometown hero Danny Ainge in that offseason, putting a total of 5 guards on the roster and essentially taking Petrovic's role on the team. finally setting him over the edge. Drazen was already frustrated with his lack of playing time, verbalizing that if he was given even just 20 minutes a game, he could help the Trailblazers win. So by this point, he was done. In the 91 season, he would be fined for requesting a trade, but eventually sent to the Nets as a part of a 3-team deal. And after complimenting the players sent to both Portland and Denver, the media had this to say about Drazen Petrovic. Petrovic, a second-year guard from Zagreb, Yugoslavia, has averaged only 4.4 points in 18 games with the Trailblazers this season. Before we jump into Petrovic's polarizing time with the New Jersey Nets, we must return to the now war-torn land of Yugoslavia. In the late 1980s, the Yugoslavian men's basketball team was the best in the world outside of America, grabbing a silver medal in the 1980 Olympics and winning the World Championship in 1990. The team was very tight-knit, almost as though they were a family, until of course the Yugoslavian wars in the 90s. Oversimplified, Yugoslavia was made up of 6 separate independent nations, some of which wished for independence. Petrovic's homeland of Croatia was at odds with the land of Serbia, who believed that some of the Croatian land belonged to them. Thus, when Croatia declared independence in 1991, it split the powerful Yugoslavian basketball team, which was made up of players from all 6 different nations. The main struggle was between the team's top 2 players, Petrovic and a Serbian named Vlade Divac, who was playing for the Lakers at the time. ESPN did an excellent 30 for 30 called Once Brothers, detailing the complicated relationship between the 2 players as they went from friends to enemies over the course of the war. So at this point, the team was shattered, with Drazen shifting to become the captain of Croatia and Divac staying on course to Yugoslavia. Despite his home country being in a state of war, Petrovic would stay in America for a new beginning in New Jersey. After getting traded mid-season in 91, he averaged just over 12 points in 20 minutes coming off the bench. Better than in Portland, but by no means NBA stardom. New Jersey was one of the bottom 5 teams in the league that season, finishing 30 games below 500, with what looked like little hope of improvement. That offseason, aging star point guard Reggie Theus would retire from professional basketball, while their number 2 overall pick Kenny Anderson would hold out for more money at the beginning of the season. So with a huge hole at point guard, the Nets had no other option but to play the Croatian superstar, who proved that European guards could shine in the NBA.
Petrovic wants the 3. It is on the way and good. Pointer of the night. Addison is 0 for 4 from three-point range. That's a little curious. Here's Petrovic. Petrovic runs into Robinson, but he got it!
Petrovic for 3. Almost 50% from three-point range. Drazen Petrovic. Minutes to go in the quarter. Petrovic springs free. Guarded by Jordan. For 3. Yep. What a senior by now. Petrovic. The third 3 out of Sam Bully. And Drazen says up right 3. Whoa. Drazen's on one of those who are all trying.
On a fast break, Petrovic was stopping at the line and hucking up a 3. Something normal in today's NBA, but frowned upon back in the early 90s. He was quite literally playing 25 years ahead of his own time. Drazen would start all 82 games in the 91-92 season and finish second in voting for the most improved player, averaging over 20 points per game and finishing second in three-point percentage, albeit with almost 100 more attempts than first place. Among this, he was earning a reputation as one of the most well-respected players in the league. Guys like Reggie Miller and Michael Jordan spoke highly of his work ethic, skill, and basketball IQ. The Nets would improve to a 40-42 record and sneak into the playoffs against the Cleveland Cavaliers, where Petrovic would show the world what he was made of in Game 1.
Beautiful pass to Petrovic, and that's as good a play as you'll see tonight. It is. It's out wide open. That's Danger City.
Speaking of three-pointers, nobody does it any better than number 3 for the New Jersey Nets. Interesting, he wears number 3 because he is the three-point king. Drazen Petrovic.
Petrovic again. Count the basket, and a foul is called on Steve Kerr. Make this team work. Petrovic continues to fill it up. Petrovic double team. Tries to fight through it.
.40 was worth a lot more back then than in today's NBA, and despite losing the series 3-1, Petrovic had put himself on the map, and his legend was only just beginning. Every basketball fan knows the infamous 1992 American Dream Team. The first year that NBA players were allowed to play in the Olympics. Jordan and Pippen, Stockton and Malone, Bird, Johnson, Barkley. Need I say any more? Naturally, this was the main storyline of men's basketball at the '92 Olympics, so most people tend to forget about another newly formed team that actually finished in second place. As the independent nation of Croatia, Drazen Petrovic, Toni Kukoc, and 2 other members of the 1990 Yugoslavian team were the only team that rose up against the Americans. Other teams were happy to get pummeled by the NBA legends, hoping to get photos and autographs for their kids after the game. But not Drazen or Croatia. They came to play. A quarter way through the match, the unstoppable Dream Team briefly fell behind the Croatians. And though they would quickly catch up and end up winning by over 30 points, Drazen and co never gave up on the match. It was well documented that the Croatians were incredibly proud to be able to stand up and fight against the Americans, boasting patriotic pride amidst one of the most difficult times in the nation's history. They were Croatia's only silver medal of the Olympics, and only medal itself outside of Goran Ivanisevic, a close friend of Petrovic's, bronze in both singles and doubles tennis. Back in the NBA, if 1992 was Petrovic's breakout season, 1993 was the year he reached the illustrious land of NBA stars. 22 points per game, All-NBA third team, and an astounding 45% from 3. But the most memorable aspect of his playstyle was his unrelenting mental and physical toughness. He would trash talk Michael Jordan like he was a bench player, get in the face of anyone to upset their rhythm. Reggie Miller famously said that Drazen was the most annoying player to go up against.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Petrovic. I didn't expect you to say that. Not a lot of people knew Drazen. He was
the hardest guy
yeah,
and the most frustrating guy I ever had to go against.
That was mostly...
The Nets would improve upon their record and face the Cavaliers in the playoffs for a rematch.
And coming up, the 5th and deciding game between the Nets and the Cavaliers.
This year, it would come down to the penultimate Game 5, which remained close right up until the final buzzer. And while Drazen would take a bit of a backseat to Derek Coleman, it wouldn't matter. He was a bona fide star who led the terrible Brooklyn Nets to back-to-back playoff appearances.
The Cavaliers defeat the Nets 3 games to 2.
In the summer of 1993, Petrovic returned to Europe to tour with the Croatian national team. Their first stop was in Poland for a qualification tournament for that year's Eurobasket. And despite pleas from everyone that the competition would be so weak he needn't have come, Drazen went anyways. He was the captain, and it was his duty to play with the rest of his fellow Croatians, no matter the stakes of the game. The tournament itself was pretty uneventful, but one particular story stands out to me. The Croatian national team were staying in a crappy hotel, and most of the team had decided to raise a fuss and complain about the pathetic accommodations for last year's Olympic silver medalists. Their main problem was that the hotel didn't have a gym. News of this reached Drazen Petrovic's ear, and he immediately told the team, "We're staying," and proceeded to spend his entire day driving around the city of Wrocław looking for a suitable gym. Of course, he found one, and not another peep of complaint was heard for the rest of the tournament. I think this speaks to his character more than anything else we've covered thus far. Someone who, when given an inch, will take a mile, and go to any length to do what has to be done. After the tournament, the Croatian national team stopped in Frankfurt for a connection on their way to Zagreb. As they all boarded their flight, Petrovic made the last-minute decision to visit his girlfriend, and drive over instead. As the Croatian team flew over Munich, Petrovic was directly below them, sleeping happily in the passenger seat of his car. He had just become an NBA star, led the league in three-point percentage, and was by all means a revolutionary player for the New Jersey Nets. But the weather outside was stormy. His girlfriend was an inexperienced driver, and when she rode up the hill a little too fast before a truck, she was unable to stop the car.
Silence was observed for Drazen Petrovic. The Nets star was killed on Monday evening in a car accident in Germany.
For all the heartbreak his death caused, we can take solace in knowing that Petrovic died happily asleep. dreaming about the magical career that laid in front of him after an entire life's worth of hard work. We may never know if Drazen would have truly brought the three-point era 2 decades early, but we can say for sure that he was a magnificent player and the greatest shooter who never was. Two days after his death, the NBA held a moment of silence in Game 1 of that year's finals. Soon after, the Nets would retire his number 3, and he would be inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2002. His old friend Goran Ivanisevic would dedicate his 2001 Wimbledon victory in his honor, and wear his jersey amidst the 100,000-person celebration in Split, Croatia. Even in today's modern game, NBA stars still respect his name, bringing him up amongst the top European players of all time, and making sure that nobody will ever forget his legacy.